Good morning to everyone. Hello, Mr. Pops. How are you?
I'm very good. Yourself?
It's a pleasure to meet you, sir.
I'm as well. I'm so good to meet you as well.
Uh,
Yeah.
for the people that is listen to URA, para la gente que nos sigue, I'm going to introduce you in Spanish for a little while and then we will start talking.
Okay.
Okay. Estamos con Pops Mohamed, un multiinstrumentista y multitalentoso artista de raíz sudafricano. El señor Mohamed tiene una larga carrera y está basado como productor en Johannesburgo. Es un honor para nosotros tenerlo esta mañana para conversar de muchos temas. It is an honor to have you here, sir. You are a very important musician from South Africa. It is an honor for me to introduce to URA people, Mr. Pops Mohamed, born in South Africa, multi-instrumentalist, multi-talented, producer based in Johannesburg.
I'm
Welcome.
I'm so happy to be with you.
I am so happy you are with us too. We have a lot of things to talk about, and let's get to business, sir.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Tell us about the time before you were born, sir. Where do you come from? Tell us about your homeland and your ancestors. I think is the best way to start knowing you.
Well, I'm actually right now I am in my home country, in my hometown where I was born, which is Benoni, which is basically on the east of Johannesburg. So east of Johannesburg, you have this little town which is called Benoni, and I was born in Benoni in South Africa. That was a very long time ago. Yes, and
Tell us.
my mission basically, I mean, I'm just going fast forward, but basically what I do today, my mission is to preserve and to protect indigenous African instruments, South African instruments, Southern African instruments, and instruments from all over the world. And I fuse the music with modern music of today, whether it's hip hop or whether it's rap or it could be house or any genre that you could be talking about. I use those platforms and I work with a lot of young people as well, producing music for young people. But I've got more than 41 albums that I've done in my lifetime.
Oh
And
wow.
I'm just about to release another album now, very shortly, which will be called The Other Side of Me.
Sir, it is wonderful to know that. Uh, in the what happened? How did you know that you were gonna spend your lifetime as a musician? When in your life, and is there is a memory that you can share that is that time when you realize maybe I'm gonna do this for living?
I was 14 years old when I started out playing music. You know, I come from a very musical family, and I played music, a guitar. You know, as a young person, just playing guitar while I was on school. And after I finished school, we used to have a band that we performed in, but I didn't take it too serious at that time. I never knew what my direction is going to be like, you know. So I used to work in factories like any other person, working in factories and supporting the family. But until June 1976, when the Soweto uprising started, that's when I knew that this is definitely going to be a new South Africa in June 1976. And that
Bueno, tuvimos una breve interrupción de don Pops Mohamed con el que estábamos conversando. Nos contaba que él nació en Sudáfrica, en una comunidad que se llama Benoni, cerca al este de Johannesburgo, y que su carrera últimamente está basada en la preservación de los instrumentos tradicionales, de los instrumentos más de raíz de Sudáfrica. Vamos a esperar un momento para ver si recuperamos la comunicación a Johannesburgo, la comunicación con Pops, y para continuar conversando con él. Aprovecho entonces un poco para resumir la charla que sosteníamos hasta hace un momento con Pops Mohamed, un multiinstrumentista de origen sudafricano que en los 90s, con el final del apartheid, nota que la música externa a Sudáfrica hace un ingreso masivo al mercado local, y él teme que las expresiones propias, culturales de Sudáfrica se empiecen a perder, e inicia un proceso muy profundo de recopilación, y no solo de recopilación, sino también de mezcla de estos elementos de raíz sudafricana con los elementos de la música contemporánea. De hecho, él es un músico que con igual facilidad se refiere a la música tradicional muy ancestral, o al drum and bass, o a la música electrónica más contemporánea. Él decide de alguna manera que ante esta invasión de sonoridades externas, la mejor forma que él, o el mejor camino que él puede tomar es agarrarse de esas sonoridades de raíz y llevarlas a un terreno que le permita difundir a través de los medios de comunicación, de la radio, de la televisión, esas sonoridades como sonoridades contemporáneas. Entonces el trabajo de Pops Mohamed en los últimos años se ha desarrollado en esa dirección. Es un artista que desde el año 91 publica álbumes de música del mundo que va desde el jazz hasta la música popular tradicional, incluyendo su paso por el drum and bass y el electrónico. Ha sido numerosamente nominado a premios por sus álbumes en África, y mantiene una larga carrera. Como nos contaba ahorita, está a punto de lanzar un nuevo álbum. ¿Hacemos una pausa para ver si Don Pop se vuelve a conectar? ¿Perdón? Ok, vamos a aprovechar, sí, para mirar un video de una presentación de Pops Mohamed, y tener una idea del trabajo de Pops sobre todo en la producción tradicional, de instrumentos tradicional. Van a ver ahí por ahí arpas de boca y algunos otros instrumentos bastante exóticos para nosotros. Adelante. Les
I'm
saludamos
sorry.
nuevamente.
Something went wrong with the networks, I think.
Do not worry, sir. We were watching some of your performance.
Okay, I haven't heard that song in a long time, actually.
Well, it is good. It is good. It's good to see you. It is good to introduce you to the public here in Costa Rica.
It's great. Yeah.
And we were
So
just watching part of your work with traditional instruments.
yes, yes, yeah.
Can,
Well,
can
that's
you?
what I do mostly. I specialize in traditional instruments, but I also do work with a band. I've got a band, my own band, which is called Pops Mohamed and Friends. So in the band, we've got a keyboard player, I've got a bass player, I've got a drummer, and I've got a saxophone player. And I've had the same band for the last 12, 12 to 15 years, the very same band. So in the band, I play only traditional instruments, and the other guys are playing modern instruments. But I do play keyboards, I play guitar, I play bass, I play many other Western instruments. But when it comes to live performances, or even if I do solo performances, like you saw on the video now, that's what I do.
Great. Can you name some of the traditional instruments that you play and you have worked in a revival?
Yeah, I mean, I play the didgeridoo from Australia. I play a Khoisan mouth bow, which is a bow that you actually tap and you put the one end of the bow into your mouth and you play it and it produces harmonics, which is called ikuma. And then also I play another instrument, which is a bowed instrument that you put in your mouth and you bow it this way. It's
Oh,
called umkhube. It also uses overtones. But one of my main instruments that I play is the harp, the West African harp, the one that you saw now on this song that was playing. The song is called Feelings Beyond. Um, that's my main instrument that I use. I mean, people identify me with the kora. It's called a kora, and it's got 21 strings. But I also play another instrument from DRC. It's called the zande, which is a 10-string harp, which you play this way like a Western harp. And then there's a few other instruments that I also play, traditional instruments, from other parts of South Africa and Southern Africa. But I usually don't perform with them on stage because then I've got too many instruments to play on stage. So normally on stage, I would just use about 3 or 4 traditional instruments with me that I can play comfortably with in the band. But when I do solo concerts, I bring all the instruments because it's just me performing on my own. And that's the time when I play my own, then I play many instruments.
great.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, sir, yes, as you know, African people's journey all over the planet has been making richer our culture everywhere. I mean, here in Costa Rica,
Yes.
we have a tremendous African influence, and all our culture,
Oh,
all our music is very uh, influenced by African ancestors. So we have an instrument here that is called quihongo, that is family of the Brazilian berimbau, that is also a bow with a string
yes.
in like I saw you playing in your whole head, your mouth is the resonant room
Yes.
for
Yes. The
that. So the
resonance. Yeah.
and we have like a cabbage, like una calabaza that is called uh,
The
uh,
calabash. Yeah.
and we use that, and we move our hands to produce the different notes, the different harmonics,
Oh,
and that's
I'd love to see. I would love to listen to that music. I don't know that instrument. I don't know. I know the birimbau from Brazil, but
it's very
because I
similar.
also I also play the birimbau, but I don't know the one from Costa Rica.
But you for sure will play wonderfully a Costa Rican quihongo.
Okay.
It is based
I'll
in this.
remember that one. I
We
think
will
I'll have to go. I
we
think
will.
I'll have to go online on YouTube and look for the instrument and listen to the music, because I'm very keen and I'm very interested in learning new instruments, because I would collect them and put them in my collection, you know. And this is more for educational purpose. And the reason why I play traditional instruments is that if we stop playing these instruments, you know, in 50 years' time, these instruments will disappear from the face of the earth, or they'll end up in a museum. So I always encourage people to play traditional instruments. It doesn't matter, you don't have to play traditional music, but you can play the traditional instrument, and you can play hip hop. You could play anything with the instrument, because at least you are keeping the culture of that instrument alive, and you are not bastardizing the culture of the instrument or the culture, but you are keeping the instrument alive. And that's I think that's the most important thing, to keep it alive, because I believe that you will never know where you're going to unless you know where you're coming from. So you got to know your history, you got to know your roots, where you're coming from. It doesn't matter whether you play jazz or you play free jazz or hip hop, but you must know your background. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you have a computer and you've got an external hard drive, if you don't back up your work on the computer on a hard drive, the day when the computer breaks, you lose all that information, because it's not backed up and you don't have proof of what you've been doing. So I believe that if you don't have a background of where you are coming from, if I come to Costa Rica, people don't want to see Pops Mohamed playing music from Costa Rica. They want to see Pops Mohamed playing music from South Africa. You know what I'm saying? So I've got to have a backup of my culture, where I'm coming from. I can teach people how to play music from my culture, and the people can teach me the music from their culture. So there's then that exchange, and that's how we can go into the future together. You know what I'm saying? Yes.
I
So
will
basically,
go.
that's
I
the
will.
work that I'm doing, you know?
Yes, sir. I will go over this idea of the influence of African music and African sounds all over the world, because it is
Right.
a wonderful thing that we have in common. Here in Costa Rica, we
Mhm.
have that instrument. We have the marimba that came also from African influence, and we
Yes.
have 6 by 8 rhythms that are very similar to African rhythms in certain parts of the country, and that we
Six,
consider
eight.
also traditional music. This type of
Yeah.
6 by 8, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, 6, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. Well, 6, 8 is similar like a waltz. So waltz is like
yeah.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So sometimes people get confused between 6, 8 and 3, 4. You know, but the African one is definitely 6, 8.
Yeah, it's wonderful because it will connect us. I mean, I'm pretty sure that you will be able to play with a Quijongo a performer and a marimba performer from Guanacaste here in Costa Rica, that is in the Pacific, in the North Pacific. There is a place called
Mm-hmm.
Guanacaste, and I know that you
Mm-hmm.
will practically be very familiar to anyone playing the Quijongo or the marimba from Guanacaste. It will sound so African to you. It will sound so connected to your roots. I
I,
hope I hope we can do that sometime.
I would love to play with musicians from Costa Rica. You know, I went to Chile once and I played with musicians there, but I've never played with people. I played with people from Brazil, but I've never played with anyone from Costa Rica. And I would dearly, dearly, dearly love to meet musicians from Costa Rica. And it's so easy to make music together because of the internet, and also the technology has made it so easy for us to work together. Like I've got a recording studio in my house. You know, I've got all the broadcasting equipment. I could do a live concert from my house because I have all the software and I know the technology because I've been working. I love technology. That's one of my expertise, working with technology. So to work with musicians from Costa Rica, it'd be such a pleasure. You know, it's not a problem. I could even do an album. We could do a CD together. So there's no problem in exchanging files over the internet and doing a concert. Actually, we could actually do a concert together with me and a musician from Costa Rica if we have the right software. You know, so I'm actually happy to be talking to you.
I'm sure we will work it out. I mean, from Johannesburg to Guanacaste, the same love, the
Exactly.
same roots.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, there's
It,
that connection where you could say it's the missing link, and we put the link together.
no, it is great, sir. I will go back to what you were saying before, because there is a certain time with this thing that we call globalization or global influence of media,
Mhm.
where all our
Mhm.
countries became very attacked somehow. I would use that word. We received lots of music from the big record labels, pop music, electronic music, and all kind of music produced in the West, and we started receiving lots of sounds from outside of our countries.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you were living the same thing in South Africa, and that was
Yes.
and that there was a reaction that you told us before that was including the traditional sounds into these new
Yeah.
types of music. I will go and translate a little for the people. There's people that is asking here for
Yes.
me to translate a little of what you're saying,
Yes.
and tell us about, because I mean, people, they separate a lot: academic music, jazz music, electronic music, popular music, traditional music. They put that in boxes, and they
Mhm.
think they don't mix at all. But you are
Mhm.
a living proof of that. Everything dialogues is you are able to have conversations between all those type of musics in the same way that you have played jazz music, you have played drum and bass, you have played traditional music. I mean, you are the living proof of that language is, we can talk between very different types of music.
Well, I mean, music is universal. You know, it doesn't matter what music you play. I used to play jazz. I played pop music when I was young. We used to play Jimi Hendrix. You know, I played the guitar, and we played all kinds of genres. We've been through all that soul music, Aretha Franklin. You just named that, right through from the 60s, 70s, the Beatles, Cliff Richard and the Shadows. You know, all those people. We've been through all that, and we end up playing traditional music. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it's just great because music, we don't have to box music. We don't have to put them into boxes and say, this is drum and bass, this is that. This is what people are calling it. We are making music together because one thing I will tell you is that music is the only form, it's the only art form, the only platform that draws the biggest amount of people. Politicians don't draw people a lot. You know, a lot of people try to run away from politicians, but music is the only art form that brings people from all walks of life, whether you're Christian, you're Muslim, you're Jewish, you're Spanish, it doesn't matter. Everybody would come together in one gathering to come and listen to the musician perform, you know, and politicians don't have that luxury. And we, as musicians, have got that luxury. Whether you play jazz or you're a DJ, you bring people together because people find a lot of relief. People find a lot of peace in traditional music. or how would I say, fused music. Because now you must remember, during the times of now, in the times of COVID now, people want to be more relaxed. People are looking for answers. Why are we living this life that is, we're living a horror movie. This is what we are living, wearing masks, social distancing, and all those things. These are things that we saw in movies 10 years ago, but now it's happening with us for real. So now when it comes to music, people don't want to jump about. People want to listen to proper music, and you should have a message in your music. And this is where countries like South Africa, Costa Rica, Brazil, these are the times when these countries play a big role in the attendance or of people listening to music. People want to listen to music that will relieve them. People want to listen to music that will make them forget about Corona. People want to listen to music that will make them forget about their problems, even if it's just for that 1 hour or 2 hours. And at least after the concert, people would say, wow, that was a great concert. You know what I'm saying? For that 2 hours, they'll remember you for a very, very long time. But if people go and listen to a politician telling people what to do, you do this, do that, people just say, we don't want to listen to that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Enough
sir.
already. Yeah.
I will try to do a little abstract of what you said. I'm going to talk in Spanish for a while, and
Okay.
then we'll be back. Estamos
Yeah.
conversando con Pops Mohamed, el multiinstrumentista sudafricano, nacido en Benoni, al este de Johannesburgo. Nos estaba contando sobre todos los instrumentos que él toca, como la cora, el embira, el arpa de boca, y hablábamos de los puntos de contacto de esta arpa, porque esta arpa se ejecuta haciendo las variaciones de tono, utilizando la boca como cavidad de resonancia. Entonces estábamos hablando de las similitudes con el quijongo guanacasteco y conversando también con él sobre las similitudes de la música guanacasteca del 6x8, que es este ritmo tan regional del Guanacaste profundo, que tiene tantos puntos de contacto. Le contaba sobre quijongo, la marimba, y él está muy contento y muy emocionado de la posibilidad de hacer en algún momento un disco que combine la música de Sudáfrica y la música guanacasteca costarricense, que tiene una influencia tan fuerte de los ritmos y las sonoridades africanas. También nos contaba ahorita de su trabajo mezclando la música ancestral con el jazz, con el drum and bass, con el electrónico. Ante el avance de la música popular, él tenía miedo de que la música local se perdiera, pasara a ser una cuestión de museo. Entonces empezó a trabajar los instrumentos tradicionales con mezclas de música electrónica, y justamente ahorita estaba hablando de los tiempos del COVID, de cómo la música debe ser para conectar con los seres humanos, para calmarlos. Ahora que la gente no quiere oír nada de los políticos, ahora que la gente huye de los discursos políticos, más bien ama y valora montones el discurso de los músicos, la forma de que los músicos tenemos de la posibilidad de hablarle a la gente en otros códigos, en otros canales, mientras que le huyen a los políticos en el tiempo del COVID. Los músicos, a los políticos en tiempos del COVID, los músicos tienen la oportunidad de dar este mensaje de calma. Sir,
Yes.
what happened to Pops Mohamed in between your first album, the Kalamazoo album, and now? What have changed? What have you learned in this journey?
Well, I mean, I have just reissued Kalamazoo about 2 years ago. People have been demanding for Kalamazoo, and it's funny that I've been getting requests that people want me to go back to that old sound of Kalamazoo. That is people who's, I think it's nostalgia, you know what I'm saying? But also there's a lot of young people who want to listen to a Pops Mohamed who's still playing the Kalamazoo sound from back in 1992, you know. And yet now I think that I've moved on. I've learned so much on my journey, where I'm now in this stage where I'm fusing my music so much and getting involved in world music, working with musicians from all parts of the world, and getting ready for a very serious journey. This is more like a conversation that I'm having with musicians, but in a musical form. But also, on the other hand, again, the people who used to listen to Kalamazoo music, um, there are no bands playing that music anymore. All the bands like the Elite Swingsters and all those township jazz musicians who play township jazz, most of them have passed on, or most of them are not playing that music anymore. I mean, and now people want Pops Mohamed to release another album that is similar to Kalamazoo. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, there's such a big gap in the market that people want to listen to that music. And so I decided that I will come up with another Kalamazoo album with new compositions. You know, I'll have new compositions based on the Kalamazoo sound.
You were talking about politicians just a few minutes ago, and I was telling people here in Costa Rica that thing that you were saying about well, we don't want to listen to politicians anymore. We were trying to get away from them, but we are very lucky as musicians that we can talk to people in a different type of language that people they receive it better. And coming from South Africa, sir, it is impossible not to talk about um, Mr. Nelson Mandela Madiba, a person that I think it really influenced your work and your personal life. And it would be great if you can talk about this wonderful universal human that is. I will not say he was. I will say he is, because he is still with us. He is still influencing. He is still being remembered. His words are more important now even than it was when he was alive.
Yeah.
And tell us about because I mean I think personally I think that musicians we don't have to be politicians, but we gotta have a view, a type of vision of the world, and we can use our music to talk about that. And I know, just that we were talking about this type of bad word that is politician and politics. Let's talk about someone who used his voice in a very powerful way, and I know that he influenced your personal life and your professional life very much.
Yes. Madiba influenced me so much, you know, that he once told me, I was doing a rally for the ANC, you know, when they were running when Nelson Mandela was running for president. Nelson Mandela came backstage and he looked at me and he laughed and he said to me that these instruments that you are playing is the instruments that I listened to when I was growing up. And he told me that you must continue playing this music, you know, because this is the future. Indigenous music is the future. So we as musicians, we are messengers. You know, we are as messengers, we are delivering messages to the people. And he encouraged me to continue playing this music. And when Nelson Mandela turned 75 on his 75th birthday, he invited me to his 75th birthday to perform. And I performed for him. But just before I performed, he told me that he wants me to carry his birthday cake with him. It was a big cake, you know, it was on a big cake on a table, a flat board. So we both carried the cake onto stage, and Nelson Mandela almost slipped because I think he was limping you know, on the one side, he sort of limped. And as we were about to walk onto stage, the cake slipped, and I told him, "Be careful!" You know, I started shouting at him, and and he said, "No, it's on your side." I said, "No, it's on your side." You know, and the people saw that was happening, and we walked onto stage, and people were just clapping hands, and it was so funny. And then when I left him on stage, he made his speech. The guys in the band said, "Man, you're going to be in trouble because you just shouted at Nelson Mandela." I said, "No, I was more worried about the cake than anything else, you know." But and after his speech, we went onto stage and we performed. But he couldn't remember my name. I told him that my name. He knew. I mean, the very first time when he met me, I introduced myself as Pops Mohamed, but he calls me Popo. So every time when he sees me, he says, "Hey, Popo," you know. So, but he actually loved my music. And then when Nelson Mandela went to London to make, you know, his first speech ever since he was released from jail, they again invited me to Trafalgar Square in London to go and perform there with a lot of traditional musicians again there. He was so happy to see me that I went. He says, "So you finally came out to perform?" I said, "Yes." And he said to me, "Thank you, Popo. Thank you for coming," you know. So we had a good relationship, me and him. I mean, we were not best friends, but we knew each other. When it comes to music, he always encouraged me to say, "Continue playing this music, continue, because it is the work, it's your calling." That's what he said to me. "This is your calling." And since then, I was more serious about, you know, playing indigenous music and fusing it with other sounds and doing lots of workshops, teaching people and doing all that kind of work. So musicians are basically, we are messengers, you know, delivering a message to people. So
Yes,
that's my journey with Nelson Mandela until he passed on.
yes, sir. I will translate a little for the people here in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Seguimos conversando con Pops Mohamed, multiinstrumentista de Sudáfrica y guardián de los instrumentos tradicionales de Sudáfrica. Nos contaba ahorita Pops de su experiencia, bueno, primero de su álbum Kalamazoo del año 91, que tiene unos sonidos muy tradicionales y cómo la gente le está solicitando nuevamente regresar a esos sonidos del Kalamazoo, del disco Kalamazoo. Y nos contaba, le contábamos que es imposible no pues hablar con una persona de Sudáfrica, de Johannesburgo, y no preguntarle por la figura de Madiba, de Nelson Mandela. Y por allí Pops nos contaba una anécdota con Nelson Mandela que humaniza y nos acerca a la figura del líder sudafricano, y muy inspirador para toda la población y en lo personal y profesional para don Pops Mohamed, del cumpleaños de Nelson Mandela en el que él estuvo, en el que Nelson Mandela le pide que le ayude a llevar el pastel de cumpleaños, el queque de cumpleaños, y es tan grande, tan grande, tan grande que no lo pueden llevar entre los dos, y se empieza a caer y Pops le dice, es de su lado que se está cayendo, y Mandela le dice, no, es del suyo que se está cayendo, y al final logran llevarlo al escenario, hacen el discurso y los músicos de Pops le dicen, ahora sí, ahora usted está en problemas, ahora sí, porque le gritaste al presidente. Entonces es la anécdota de Pops con don Nelson Mandela y sus otros encuentros en otros lugares en los que Mandela siempre le decía que continuara con su trabajo, que cuidara los instrumentos tradicionales, porque la música originaria, la música indígena, la música originaria es el futuro. Sir, you were telling us indigenous music is the future. Here in our country, we have a very unique human diversity of languages and stories. Everyone tells the world
Mhm.
in their own way. Everything has something to say. Everyone is got some wisdom to to provide to the human experience. And we need that
Yes.
diversity to survive. Like a forest needs biological diversity to survive. We,
Mm,
as
mm,
human
mm.
beings, we need diversity to survive. You
Yeah.
have been working for a long time, even going to the Kalahari, working with the San people,
Yes.
listening to the elders. Why is that so important? Why do you say indigenous people is the future? Why do we have to care for those voices, for those sounds?
Well, the reason why I say indigenous music is the future, if you look at the people from the Kalahari, the Khoisan, if you look at the Aboriginal people from Australia, you look at the Native Americans, if you look at all these indigenous people around the world, people who's got the wisdom about music, the food, the culture, of everything that's indigenous. The Khoisan have been around for more than 150,000 years. Well, 50,000 years the Khoisan has been around, 57,000 years, I think. And the same applies to other people. Now, if you think 57,000 years, I mean, that's a long time. And during the 50,000 years up to now, so many other indigenous cultures and so many cities have been wiped out. So many plagues have happened to many, many tribes of people around the world who have died, who we don't know nothing of. We are only finding fossils of these people or cities that has been buried under the sea. But these people, like the Khoisan and all those people, there's a reason why these people are still around. There's a lot of people that say that indigenous people don't contribute to the 21st century, and I don't believe that. I believe that the music of the future and the languages of the future will be that of indigenous of people, because there's nothing left anymore. There's nowhere we can go to. If you see the Khoisan people today or the Aboriginal people, they are still living the same lifestyles of their ancestors of thousands and thousands of years ago, and they are surviving. But we can't even live without a $5 for a day, and then we get worried because you don't have money. But these people have been living without money all their lives. You know what I'm saying? These people have been living with the environment, and the music is music from Mother Earth. The instruments that they use are made by hand. It's all handmade instruments. And while the DJs and everyone else is, producing software and all kinds of software to make music, more electronic music. They are trying to emulate indigenous music with the sounds of electronics. But why do you have to try and emulate that when you can teach yourself an indigenous instrument? So if you look at people from America, for instance, the rap music and all that stuff that's coming around, there's nothing in that anymore. You listen to the lyrics. I mean, they have explicit lyrics that's not good for our children to listen to. It means these people don't have a culture anymore. There's no culture. There's no standards. The morals are gone and everything. So, and what do we do? Where do we go to? Who do we turn to? We go back to traditional way of life. And therefore, that's why I'm saying that music from the future will be coming from indigenous people from around the world. And as it is medicine, food, and especially medicine, all the medicines that has been, around the world that doctors are using and pharmaceutical companies are using, it's all the knowledge and wisdom from indigenous people they've been robbed, they've been raped from their knowledge, and the Western world has made it their own and selling it now at exorbitant prices. Whereas when you go to these indigenous places like the Kalahari, these people are using plants to heal themselves. They have so many ways to heal sick people, cancer and all that, They don't have that. You know, they're living off from the plants. And the same way, they're still doing the same music that their ancestors have been doing over the last thousands of years. They're still playing exactly the same music. So there's an answer there. We're talking about a millennial way of life. We're talking about the millennium, the new millennium. What did people do 1,000 years ago in millennial people? And therefore, I say that the Khoisan people and all indigenous people are millennial. So I would love to have a legacy that I have a lineage of indigenous music and indigenous knowledge if I die one day. So,
Now, sir, we have this incredible tool that is simply a cell phone, where people, young people from everywhere, can listen to music, can preserve music, can record their own songs. Even, I mean, there is a wonderful tool that we didn't have 10 or 20 years
mhm,
ago, and it
mm,
has really changed the game, because now you don't need to spend money for listening to music in a very expensive equipment,
yes.
or you don't have to you don't have to look for very expensive equipment to record music. You can do it with a
Mm-mm.
simple cell phone. It has changed a
Well,
lot the way.
even the Khoisan are using cell phones now.
I'm going to translate a little, and we will be in the last part of our interview, sir.
Right.
Conversando con Pops Mohamed, multiinstrumentista sudafricano, que asegura, nos cuenta que la música de los ancestros, la música indígena, es la música del futuro. La conexión de estos pueblos con su raíz la hace única y la hace reconocible. Habla de cómo el discurso descalifica el conocimiento indígena, pero por otro lado la industria expropia, busca y roba el conocimiento indígena para la medicina y para muchos otros aspectos. Entonces el concepto de Pops es que la música indígena es la música del futuro. Sir, uh,
Yeah.
in a world where we have so many musicians, so many producers, would you say that looking at your roots, looking at your ancestors, looking at your own culture is the thing that is going to make you unique?
I think there's a lot of uniqueness if we take indigenous music and whatever the West has got to offer. There's nothing wrong with music coming from the Western world. I mean, I listen to pop music. I still love listening to the top 40. I still love listening to, I mean, old artists like Frank Sinatra and all those people. But I listen to people like John Coltrane, Miles Davis, and all those guys, Marcus Miller. Those are great, great musicians. But what I'm saying is that we can learn, we can take the techniques, what we listen to from the West, and we can fuse that with our music in the same way they are taking some of our sounds and they're fusing it within their music. If you listen to the early recordings of Miles Davis, he's playing with an Imbira player from Zimbabwe, a great album which is called Zimbabwe. So there's this fusion where we could link and help one another, borrowing the sounds from the West, which is the new sounds that young people are listening today, and taking our music and fusing that together. Because if you go to the Western world, people will say to you, give us something to you. So what we do is that we take their music and we fuse it with our own music and give it back to them in a way that they would say, man, I've never listened to this. I never thought that music could be produced like this. So you're giving them something that they don't know, but yet in the same time, they understand what you are trying to do. It's like, this is your music, but this is how I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. The music of the future will definitely be coming from indigenous people fused with that of the Western world.
Sir,
And our music will not be music seen as a novelty anymore, because people from the West come to Africa, and when they go back to their countries, they buy a CD, African CD, just as proof to say, I've been to Africa, you know, I have a CD from Africa. But they won't buy our music with a passion the way our children are buying music from the West. We spend thousands and thousands of dollars buying music from the West. It is now time that the people from the West buy our music with the same passion as what we are doing to their music, so that the royalties can come in abundance into our countries, into Costa Rica, South Africa, into Brazil, and all those countries. Because then people from the West will buy it because they want it and they love it, and not as proof that they've been to Africa or they've been to Costa Rica.
Sir, it's been a pleasure to be with you. Just a few minutes ago, we put Johannesburg and Guanacaste one step away from each other. Costa Rica and South Africa one step away from each other, talking about
Right.
the African roots. There is one message that you can send to African Costa Rican people, to Costa Rican people, but maybe especially to African Costa Rican people from South Africa?
Well, I'd love to say to the people that it's an honor for me to be talking to them right now, and that I'm looking forward to the day where I'll be able to come to Costa Rica personally. If that can't happen, I would love to work with people, especially people of African descent in Costa Rica, and of course, other people of color as well, different colors of Costa Rica. But I would love to make a connection and open up a way in such a way that we could have diplomatic relations. This is my message to the people from Costa Rica.
El señor Pops Mohamed dice que él encantaría colaborar con artistas costarricenses, con artistas afrodescendientes costarricenses, con artistas de este país y establecer un diálogo, poder producir y comunicarnos en común, y que su mensaje justamente es ese, que le encantaría visitar Costa Rica, conocer Costa Rica, estar acá, y si que creemos, trataremos de que así sea posible, y de no ser posible poder dialogar en la distancia con artistas costarricenses. Thanks, sir. It has been a great pleasure to have you with us. Thanks for your time, and keep that wonderful job that you're doing.
Thank you so much, and for having me onto the show. And I hope this is not the last time. I hope we'll see each other again the next time and continue our talks and continue with the struggle in promoting our indigenous music. Because
Thanks a
that
lot,
is a
sir.
struggle. That is a struggle that will continue until we win. Thank you so much.
Until we see
Thank you.
you next time. Thank you.
Next
Thank you
time.
very much.
Bye bye.
Muchísimas
Bye
gracias.
bye.
Bye. Muchísimas gracias a Pops Mohamed, multiinstrumentista sudafricano, músico de raíz, maravilloso ser humano. Esperamos encontrarnos nuevamente muy pronto. Seguimos con URÁ, el mercado cultural de la música de Centroamérica y el Caribe, en breve con una nueva charla. Muchísimas gracias.